All right, Austin, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. For anyone listening who doesn't know who you are, can you give them a typical rundown of what it is you do, who you are, maybe just the life journey you've been on so far?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Austin Rutherford, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, just recently moved down here to Florida. Sunny, well, I guess not so sunny today, but ended up buying my first house when I was 20 years old. My original dream was the NBA. Fell out of love with that. Fell in love with real estate, passive income to be specific. So bought a rental when I was 20 years old. And then hired a mentor at 21. Flipped my first house at 22. Made over $100,000 in profit, poured it all
Mm-hmm.
back into the business. And then, since then, over the last 7.5 years, we flipped hundreds and hundreds of houses, anything from new construction to condo conversions to wholesales to flips to rentals to smaller
Mm-hmm.
apartment buildings, kind of everything in between. So real estate's been great. Business is still operating, still cranking out deals. I'm growing my brand on social media as well, between Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, YouTube, almost 1 million followers. And then also fell in love with cryptocurrencies as well. So been diving into that a lot over the last year or so too.
Mm. And so you got started pretty early.
Mhm.
I pulled out a quote from your website. In your exact words, you said, I paid a mentor $25,000 on a credit card to teach me the flipping game when I was 20. Finally, 16 months after paying my mentor, grinding every day, working 60 plus hours a week, valeting, and taking 15 credit hours in college, I flipped my first house the week after I turned 22 years old and made $107,000 net profit. I flipped the next house about 4 months later and made $40,000. Then I quit my job, dropped out of college, went full time into the real estate, and over the last 5.5 years, moved about 200 properties in flips, new builds, rentals, and wholesales. So let's dive into this a little more because I have a lot of questions here. You were in college at the time
Yep.
while working 60 hours a week.
Yep.
So you were taking classes and working 60 hours a week.
Yeah, so I went to basically I worked in the mornings, so usually 7 to 3, and Saturdays and Sundays.
Yep.
So putting in 50, 60 hours a week,
Okay.
and then in night times and weekends, the nights on weekends, I would go to college, take credit hours in college, 15 credit hours. It was like a small like community college, so it wasn't like Ohio State or Arizona State
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that. So schedules are a lot more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I promised my mother I'd get my college degree, so I was going to college to get a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was working because I needed money, and I was trying to start my real estate business all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So in those 16 hours of just grinding every day that you were trying to learn the real estate game, did you have any sort of discouragement or doubt in yourself that you could do something like this or that you should just throw it aside after, like, because I know you dropped 25 grand and that's a pretty hefty investment on a credit card for a
Yep.
20-year-old.
Yep.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I actually pulled out new credit cards and maxed them out the same day. So it was I was all
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I had 18 months no interest. I thought I was going to get rich, the next day, the next month,
Yep.
and it didn't really turn out to be like that. From the day I maxed my credit cards, invested into a mentor, to the day I made money flipping houses was that 16-month process. So
Yeah.
I was grinding my face off for 16 months straight, putting in 16, 18, 20-hour days every single day like clockwork.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of dark times. There's a lot of times that like I failed, or I'm a failure, or is this really going to work, or is everything
Mm-hmm.
that my friends and parents and teachers and everybody else is saying, are they right? So yeah, there's a lot of self talk,
Mm-hmm.
self doubt, negativity. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I always knew I wanted something more out of life. I
Mm-hmm.
had goals, I had visions, I had dreams. That's kind of what kept me going forward. But definitely lots of dark times.
So why not school? Like, were you looking for a way out of school? Because I know you said you wanted more, and it makes sense. But can you explain that why school wasn't going to bring you to something more?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I hated school. I hate sitting in the classroom. I hated structure. I hated people telling me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Even in high school, middle school, I was always hustling, making money. I'd buy candy in bulk from Sam's Club, put it in my backpack and sell it to school. I'd cut grass. I'd shovel driveways. I'd
Yep.
flip Buckeye necklaces. So like I was always like hustling, finding a way to make money. So
Yep.
school never like really sat well with me. I had straight A's. I didn't really try. It's not like school was hard. I
Mm-hmm.
just hated it. But I promised my mother I'd go to college and get my college degree. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a household. I'm sure like you and maybe a lot of other people watching this, is go to high school, get good grades, graduate, go to college, get good grades, get a degree, get a job, work your way up the corporate ladder. Like that's how I grew up. So that's kind of what was ingrained in me. But like there was always this itch, like this ain't it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was doing it because I wanted to make my mom happy. I promised my mom I'd get my college degree, so I was going to college for that. And like I said, I fell in love with the idea of passive residual income. And passive is money that comes without you working, and residual is consistently. So passive, that money that comes to you without you working consistently. I was like, that sounds good to me. Like I like the sounds of that. And working doesn't get you there. So that's why I fell in love with real estate, dove in. And once I made some money, I was like, hey ma, like I ain't never gonna graduate. I'm sorry, but I'm done and dropped out. But I mean, they don't teach you real life stuff. They don't teach you money. They don't teach you real estate. Single handedly has created the most millionaires on planet Earth ever. So like, why don't we talk about real estate? You know what I mean? Why don't we talk about the battle between here? Because this is 80-90% of real life out there. Like, why don't we talk about those things? They teach you how to be a worker. And like, there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5. There's a lot of people that want to do that and want to turn their phone off at 5 p.m. And that's fine. But like, you'll never have true, financial freedom by doing that. So right or wrong, there is no right or wrong. Whatever you want in life is fine. But, there's different ways you got to live that life.
So you dropped 25K just like that. Was that all ambition, or was that strategically planned? Looking back, like, was that something that you said, oh, that's smart at the time, or was that just a little ambitious?
I mean, I thought it was smart at the time, but I mean, it wasn't planned. Like I went to a 3-day seminar, like come to this seminar, learn how to flip houses. Day 1, they taught us. Day 2, they taught us. The end of day 2, they're like, hey, we can teach you more. Here's our coaching program. It's 25 grand. And by the way, you got to have the money tomorrow. So it really wasn't planned. It was less than 24 hours to make that decision.
You were just so convinced on setting yourself like apart.
To me, like opportunities come in front of people all the time. But nobody seizes those opportunities, right? Whether it's a mentor, whether it's literally somebody walking past you on the sidewalk, like that could be a billionaire. Like you can say hi and that guy can talk to you and can give you a job. Like I feel like people let opportunities pass by them all the time, and like they don't take advantage of those opportunities. So that was kind of the tipping point. That's the starting point for me. And since then, like I talk to everybody, I try and research everything. I put my money into a lot of different things. Not recklessly, because there's a balance there. Shiny object syndrome. You don't want to do that. But I felt like it was my opportunity.
At 21, you raised $250,000 with a comparatively small track record. Was that developed all through sales skills? Were you always good at sales and persuasion, or how did you raise so much money even before you really established yourself?
Yeah, so I had a rental property at 20, right? I used the bank to fund that. So that was like my only real estate experience. Never did construction, never did any of that. And then I wanted to start flipping houses. So I got this deal, and it was a $74,000 purchase and a $170,000 rehab. So I was like, man, like this is a great deal, right? The ARV is like 375. I was gonna make $100K on it. And I was like, but the problem is I got to raise $250,000. Like I don't have $250,000. So I called a buddy of mine that I met networking. I was like, hey, bro, like, can you walk this house and just make sure like this is a good deal? And he walked it. He's like, great deal. If you don't buy it, you can wholesale it to me and I'll pay you a $25,000 assignment fee. I was like, all right, cool. Like worst case scenario, I got that as the backup plan, right? Best case scenario, I do this thing and I make $100,000. So I was like, all right, well, how can I raise $250,000? I talked to my mom, my dad, my aunts, my cousins, my grandpa, like everybody I could think of to lend me money. And everyone was like, no, like you don't have much experience. Like you sure this deal actually makes sense, et cetera, et cetera. So I started like thinking bigger, right? So I met a lady a year prior at a real estate networking event, just like talking to people. And she was like, I'm getting into real estate. I just rolled my retirement account to fund my own deals when I get one. I was like, oh, cool. And then we talked a little bit more, exchanged numbers and moved on. A year later, I get my first deal. I call her. I'm like, hey, like, you remember me? Yeah, I remember you. How's it going? I was like, great. How's it going for you? Hey, still trying to get started. I was like, well, actually, I got this opportunity. I know you said you had some money back then. If it's something you're interested in, I'd love for you to bring the money to this deal. She ended up, lending the money on the deal. So I wouldn't even really say it was like sales. It was giving somebody an opportunity and opening my mouth. Again, opportunity passes people by. Opening my mouth, talking to her a year prior and asking her again a year later.
I talked with Jeff Fenster, founder of Everbowl, and he said it's really just a form of relationship capital. You deposit into these relationships. and when you need them, they come back to you. So you deposit without expecting anything, and then when you need something like capital for, say, like your prime example for private money, you call up and then you basically just ask for all the deposits you've kind of put into a relationship. And worst case scenario, it doesn't pan out, but that's kind of the whole concept of it. And
100%.
so right now you own a lot of single family rentals. Is there a reason why you do all, or not all, because I know you're into multifamily and you're into apartments, but is there a reason why you do mostly single family? Because for me personally, I see the volume you're doing and it just makes me wonder why 100 individual separate properties versus owning 100 unit multi-unit one piece of property.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so I got into the game and learned how to flip single family houses, right? So that's how I got in. I didn't even understand like buying a lot of rentals. I just wanted them.
Yeah.
I started flipping houses, and then like a duplex would come across my deal flow and be like, man, like this is 2 units. Like let me buy this and keep this as a rental. So I started stacking like singles and doubles. I had like, I don't know, 20, 30 units or something like that between single families and duplexes. And then, deals continued to come across the table. Then we bought a 6 unit. Then we bought another 6 unit. Then we bought an 8 unit. And along with that, continued to buy singles and doubles. And now we own about 60 rentals. I'm literally before this call, that's why I was late. I was underwriting a 19 unit deal. That's in contract, ready to purchase. We're just I was on the phone with banks to get it funded. So, picking up a 19 unit, we're underwriting a 100 unit right now. So it's not like I was like, hey, I want to do single compared to apartments. It was like, hey, these are the opportunities that are in front of me. Let's take advantage of these opportunities. And now these opportunities are in front of me, the bigger, larger multifamilies. Like, let's take advantage of those as well. So it wasn't necessarily like one or the other. It was just what was there at the time. But you can make an argument either way, to me at least. Apartments are harder to fill because nobody wants to do apartment living. Single families are very easy to fill because people want to live in a single family house. You got more turnover here because you got more neighbors. You got less turnover here because you got less neighbors. You got one roof, one furnace, one AC on 100 units. This is the negative. Or you got like one on one building. That's the positive. So like either way, you can kind of make the argument. I know people wildly successful in both, but I'm just trying to mix it up and take advantage of what's in front of me.
Of course. So now for someone just getting started, is it a mental barrier to say that they should get involved in single family to build a back end and build some capital under their belt before getting involved into multifamily? Is that a mental barrier, or is it reasonable to say they should, if they want to pursue multifamily, they should pursue it right off the bat?
No, it's a mental barrier. I mean, you can start out with a 500 unit apartment deal. Now, you're not going to be able to do that entire deal yourself.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the experience, you don't have the money, you don't have the credibility, you don't have the net worth, you don't have all these things. But like, let's say the first deal you get is a 500 unit apartment building. Like, all right, cool. Take that deal, present it to a multifamily operator, somebody who owns thousands of units. Be like, yo, I got this amazing deal. Like, can we partner on it somehow? Now you might only get, 3, 5, 10, 15% equity within that deal because there's so many other pieces that come into play on that one deal. But now you own, 10% of 500 units. You have 50 units overnight, or 5%. You have 25 units overnight. And then you take that knowledge and experience and working with that person. Now the next 500 unit deal, you can go out there and do it yourself. Again, 500 is like a little bit of a stretch, but 100 unit or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's a mental thing for sure. You just got to believe in yourself that you can do it. But with that too, again, you cannot do it yourself. You just simply can't get the financing. So you got to be able to bring a team together: contractors, bankers, appraisers, operators, net worth individuals to be able to do that entire deal. And then you're off to the races after that.
Mm-hmm. So right now, what do you have going on in your business? What does your portfolio look like? Your buying criteria? And then also, so let's dive into that first, because I have something I want to dive into after.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have leads inbound. We have people trying to send us deals, sell us deals. So when they come in, our first option is to keep it as a rental property. So we have two criteria. We want to make at least $400 a door per month per unit. And then we want to be using the BRRRR method: buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. We want to be all in with none of our own money. If it hits that criteria, we're keeping it as a rental. If it
Okay.
does not hit that criteria, then we look to flip it. It has to be
Yeah.
less than a $50,000 rehab for us to flip it because I don't want to get into these massive projects.
Yeah.
If it's more than a $50,000 rehab, then we're going to wholesale it. If it doesn't work as a wholesale, we're going to move on to the next deal. So
Okay.
my goal right now is to build rentals and long-term generational wealth more than anything else.
Yeah. Now, how different should that criteria look for someone that's just getting started, has no projects under the belt, and how much more conservative should it be?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my goal is long-term rentals, right? Long-term generational wealth. It's
Yeah.
because I already have money. I already have other deals. I already have, bigger projects that I'm flipping with money inbound. So you got
Yep.
to look at it from two different perspectives. Like if you need money today, you got to wholesale and flip houses. Rentals isn't going to get you there because you're only going to make what $300 a month. Like it's not
Yeah.
changing anybody's life.
Yeah.
But long term, you make way more money, but it's long term, right? So if
Yeah.
you're in a position where like you're broke, you're young, you're trying to get started, flipping wholesale for sure. Make money, stack that bread, and then start buying rental properties after that. But let's say like you're a CEO of a company or something. You'll have no real estate experience, but you have a business, a job that you're making a lot of money on, and you want to get into real estate. You don't need to flip in wholesale because you already have the money coming in. Start
Yep.
buying rentals. You know what I mean? So it just depends on each person's scenario and
Mhm.
lifestyle. So that kind of that on that. But as far as like conservativeness, you definitely want to be a little bit more conservative when you're starting because like you simply just don't know what you don't know. Like you don't
Mhm.
understand that the electrical issues behind the wall. You don't understand the plumbing issues behind the wall. You
Yep.
don't understand the city code violations that'll come up in 30 days. You don't understand the property tax increases when you buy the property more than the appraised value. So
Mhm.
like I've learned those things because I've been through it. I
Yep.
was ignorant. I bought a deal and I was like, damn, like this sucks. Now I got more money out of pocket than I wanted to. So I live and I learn. But if you're brand new, you definitely want to be a little bit more on the conservative side because you just simply don't know what you don't know.
So while we're kind of on that, kind of losses and whatnot, real estate can make you wealthy if done right. It's like
Mhm.
anything, but it can also steal all your time and money if not executed correctly. And I want
Yep.
people to see that although on social media it may look like all glory, there's a lot that can go wrong along the journey. What was your worst project ever? The one that everything possibly could have went wrong, or where you lost a lot of money? What did that project look like?
Yeah, great question. So it's kind of like three deals, and I'll run you through all three of them. One I bought for 25 grand, and I sold it for 325 grand. So I had a $300,000 margin, and I
Yep.
only made $7,000 on that house
No shit.
because our rehab budget of 120 grand ended up being 200 grand, and instead of taking 6 months, it took 18 months.
No
So like
shit.
I didn't lose money, but I lost like $150,000 of opportunity cost, right? But
Yeah.
like anything and everything you can imagine went wrong on that deal. The second deal, I over projected the ARV, I under projected the repair cost. So when we went to sell it, it sold for less and we spent more. So I was underwater. So actually, it took us like 12 months, I think, to do this deal.
Mhm.
So 12 months of working and borrowing money and struggling and blah, blah, blah. And I went to sell the house and I sold it to a buyer. They bought the house and I paid them $37,000 to buy the house. So I physically lost 37 grand and a year of my life on that deal. So that's like the worst, like true, like loss.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest opportunity loss. It's the biggest actual loss on paper. And then the third deal, I bought it. We demoed it. The day after demo, we walked in. We realized that the house was literally sliding off of the foundation. And we had to put in LVOs through the house, literally lift up the entire house all the way through, ripped
Yeah.
off the back addition, lifted up the rest, rebuilt the entire foundation, and set the house back down on top. Again, luckily, I didn't lose money. I only made $3,000 on that house, but I lost out on $100,000 opportunity cost on that house.
Yeah.
So, like, it happens. It's life.
Yeah.
If we always say, like, if you haven't lost money, you're not doing enough deals yet.
Yeah. So who are you learning from right now? Um, People see you on social media and think you're the go-to guy for real estate, which you are, but I'm sure that you're constantly learning for ways to level up and you're not where you want to be, I'm assuming. So what masterminds are you in right now and what sort of impact is that having on your personal life and business?
Absolutely. So I spend about $100,000 a year on my education, on mentorships, on masterminds, on events, on all that stuff, because I believe in the power of learning from people that are in a position that you eventually want to be in.
Hmm.
So for me, I've been in a mastermind. It's called the DM Fam for the last like 4 years, I think. It's been amazing. It's not really real estate; it's more business and mindset than anything else. Uh,
Yep.
but that's been tremendous. It's opened me up to a lot of other business avenues and business opportunities. And I have mentors in the cryptocurrency space. I have mentors in the branding and social media space. As far as like real estate goes, like the churning and burning. I mean, we've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. I have friends that are in the large multifamily game. So like, the 20 unit, the 100 unit that we're underwriting right now. I'm calling them to ask like, yo, like this is my first 100 unit deal. Like, what do I not know? You don't know
Yeah.
what you don't know. What do I
What are
not
you
know?
doing here?
Yeah. So leaning on them on like the larger deals. And yeah, again, so I got into crypto last November, right? So it's been a year now. And I got into crypto, started, messing around, made a little bit of money. I was like, man, like this is real money here. What did I do? I hired two mentors in the cryptocurrency space. I paid them money to teach me the game. So like
Yep.
anytime I go into something new that I want to learn, I find who's great at it and I pay them to teach me.
So you avoid the headaches.
Absolutely, 100%. I want the shortcut.
So who are your mentors? Because I know you just came out with a cryptocurrency course.
Mhm.
It's really good too. I just got it. Because it's very hard to navigate how to actually use these softwares and apps if you
Yep.
don't know anything about them. So it teaches you how to really send money, because it's really easy to lose it if you send it to the wrong location. And
Agreed.
so who are your mentors for cryptocurrency right now? And how are they kind of teaching you?
Yeah, so Lee is one of them, and then Raf is another one. So the thing with crypto, right? If you have like real money in crypto, you try to stay under the radar. So these aren't guys like on TV or anything. I was
Yeah.
lucky enough to be introduced to them, but one took like 10 grand to 500 mil in about 4 years. One took 100K to 100 mil in like 2.5 years. So like those are the people I want to learn from.
And what kind of investments are these? I know we're kind of getting off track here, but what kind of investments are these cryptocurrency mentorship courses?
Like 10, 5, 10, 15 grand,
Okay.
give or take. Just
Yeah.
really kind of like real estate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm. So the last thing I kind of want to dive into, if you have a question, if you lost everything today, where would you be recreating a career for yourself? Where do you see the most opportunity in the age we're living in?
Great question. So, three opportunities in today's world that I see. One is real estate. It's created the most millionaires ever. It's going to continue to create millionaires. It's not the easiest, though. Real estate is very difficult. I've been in the game for 7.5 years. I've busted my head on the wall many, many times. I've lost money. I've made money. It's a very difficult thing, but you can get very wealthy doing it. The two other opportunities, social media, building a brand on social media, podcast, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is, eyeballs is currency, and that's where the world's going. So, social media is number one on my list. Well, number one and two.
Yeah.
And then the other one is cryptocurrencies. I had one trade, 8 grand into 500 grand in 6 months. Like, I don't know where else you can do that.
Yeah.
There's a story circling about 8 grand to 5 billion in Shiba Inu in a couple years. Like, I don't know where else you can get those types of returns. So
Yeah.
like the NFTs, the metaverse, it's a wild, wild world out there right now. So that's where I
Mhm.
see the opportunities: real estate, branding, and cryptocurrencies.
Okay. So for someone just out of high school, whether or not they want to go to college, besides the fact, what industries, like, is real estate the number one industry that can create wealth, generational wealth, feasibly, or are there what other industries are out there that are feasible for somebody young to get into?
I mean, I think the cryptocurrency space. I mean, you don't if you have $1,000, and you really know what you're doing. I mean, you can swap NFTs, you can trade them, you can buy small cap coins, turn them into large cap coins, and make money on. Now, again, very very risky because it's a very volatile market. But if
Mhm.
you really know what you're doing, like there's a massive opportunity right there.
Mhm.
That and again, wholesaling real estate, buying rentals. That's like the tried and true continuous method. But you're not going from $1,000 to $1 million in a year, flipping 2 houses. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's just not possible. You
Yeah.
can do that in the crypto space, or you could also lose all the money. So I think they're both great opportunities. It's just kind of like what's your risk tolerance? You know what I mean? If you want to swing for the fences, like
Yeah.
try crypto. If you want a
Do it.
tried and true method,
Yeah.
real estate's been there for forever.
Take the risk while you can type thing.
That's a big thing, like especially for young people, right?
Yeah.
You have the least amount of responsibilities you'll ever have. You may or may not have a family, which you probably more people will in the future.
Yep.
You don't have crazy debt. If you come out of college and you have debt, you get like 6 to 12 months of not paying that debt. So like
Yep.
when you're young, it's the best time to do something for yourself because you have the least amount of responsibilities ever. So like people are always like, well, what if I lose it all? Okay, well, if you're young and you lose it all, what do you lose? You lose your $1,000 in the bank or your beat up Honda Civic that's worth $500. Like, all right, like take that. Like, I'll start over. I didn't have anything in the first place.
Yeah.
So, like, if you lose it all, what do you really?
What does that really mean?
Yeah, like that. I'll take my $1,000. Like, I'm trying to win life. I'm not sitting on the sideline. I always have this. I forget the word. This thing in my head, and I think about. It's like baseball players, right? When they're swinging, when they're up at bat swinging, right? Would you rather strike out without ever swinging the bat, or would you rather strike out swinging them 3 times in a row? I'm swinging. I'm not sitting on the sidelines.
Of course, love it, bro. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing your story. I think a lot of people can take some reflection, and especially any young people listening to this, I think take the risk and. I hope you took some value from this. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate you coming on to the podcast today, and hopefully look forward to connecting in the future.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate the opportunity. And anybody who's watching that wants to connect, you can find me on Austin Rutherford Official on Instagram or theaustinrutherford.com.
I'll drop Austin's socials and his website in the comments below. So if you guys want to reach out to him, I highly recommend his crypto course. If you are looking into cryptocurrency, it's a very step-by-step guide that teaches you how to get involved and use these softwares that can be very complicated. So I'll drop everything in the comments below. But thank you, Austin. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Cody.